Welcome to 1041, a UCSO podcast, where we take you behind the badge and in the heart of our community. I'm your host, Tyler Funderburke. Today we're taking a special journey that goes far beyond miles on a bike. It's about purpose, sacrifice, and honoring those who have given everything in the line of duty. Joining us is Brian Funderburke, who participates in the annual Bike to DC ride. And if you're asking, yes, we are related. Lieutenant Funderburke, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
For those who may not be familiar, what is Bike to DC?
Bike to DC is an event that started in Charlotte right after officers Clark and Shelton were killed in 2007. They wanted to raise money for students that want to get into law enforcement, do a scholarship. So they do it through the Charlotte Legacy Foundation, and it's in their honor. So law enforcement here in the Charlotte area will ride, they'll raise money for it, and they'll ride, it's 500 miles in 4 days, leaving from CMPD headquarters, going all the way to DC on day 4.
So what does it all involve?
A lot of time on the bike, that's for sure. But it's a lot of training that goes into it. When I first did it, I had ridden maybe 42 miles was my longest ride, and that was with several stops. And then I went to doing the 500 miles, and of course, throughout the ride we have breaking points where we take a break, things like that. But it really, you just dig deep, because you got to remember what you're riding for, and it's for the ones that were taken from us.
Why did you personally decide to take part in Bike to DC?
Well, in 2014, Union County Sheriff's Office had our, so far, and hope is the only, but our only in-line of duty death with Sergeant Jeff Green, November 19th, 2014. And about 4 years later, I had a friend that had participated in Bike to DC. And he told me about it. I didn't ride bicycles. I didn't have anything to do with bikes. And he said, hey, you ought to do that for Jeff. Because Jeff and I were very, very close. And I got to thinking about it, and I was like, you know what? I should do that for him. So I had some money saved up. I went and bought a bicycle and started riding. And then started getting to know some of the cycling groups in the Charlotte area, learned a little bit about what it's like riding in a large group, and just started getting to where I enjoyed it, as far as a hobby. But then doing Bike to DC, it became very addictive for me, because that's the whole reason why I ride.
So what does this ride mean to you?
It's everything. I mean, it's from the beginning point of doing it for Jeff, and I still ride for Jeff, even, now here's 2026, and I started doing this. My first ride was in 2019, but since Jeff passed away, or since I did it for him, we've had, I believe it was Officer Sheldon in Mooresville. He was taken from us. He was a K-9 handler. I'm trying to remember the Shelby police officer that we had that was taken from us. Tim was his first name. I can't think of his last name right now. But even then, 2 years ago, we just had in Charlotte Joshua Iyer and the three marshals that were killed. And one of those, I think, is Sam. His last name starts with a P. But
Pelosi?
Yeah, Pelosi. There you go. I didn't want to, say it wrong. He lived here in Union County. So, riding for those guys. And, of course, I never met them, never knew them. But they wear a badge. They leave their families just like I do every day to go to work. And not knowing if they're going to come back. But they're going to take care of others that they probably never will meet either. So that's the whole reason why I ride. Even when I'm not doing Bike DC, every day that I'm on my bike on the road, there's points during the ride where I'm just like, man, this is hard, and I don't want to do it, but I'm like, I'm doing this for people that, they would give anything to be able to do this, or just to be with their family.
Yeah, that kind of leads into my next question. Is there a moment during the ride that really sticks with you?
Well, there's a lot of hills, and I'm a big boy, so those are tough. But I would say the moments that the very first time that I did Bike to DC, I remember day 4, and I'm tired. You know, I mean, we've already had over 400 miles in our legs. We've got probably 60 something left to go, and I want to quit. You know, and they do have vans. Like if you want to quit, you can get in the van and take a break, whatever. And some people do it, and that's fine. But I was getting to that point where I was just like, man. And matter of fact, shout out to Rhett Bolin with the Monroe Police Department, because he used to ride. But Rhett put his hand on my back and said, "You got this." And just that right there, just that camaraderie, you know, just a fellow, you know, brother in blue. And he didn't push me or nothing. He just put his hand on my back. Just that support, it got me through it. And then since then, you know, like I said, I got hooked on it, and I've been riding ever since. And then now when I go to these events like Bike to DC, that's what I'm doing. Like I'll see somebody new starting out, and you just see that head drop down. And you just get up behind them and you just put your hand on their back and you just encourage them. You tell them you got this. I've got a funny story about my wife I can tell you if you'd like to know about that one.
Sure, maybe we can talk about that.
Yeah, well, she does day 1, and I've been trying to get her to ride for years. And she said, "Well, if you'll get me an e-bike, I'll ride." And I said, "Oh, okay." So I saved some money and was able to get an e-bike. And I said, "Here you go. Now you ain't got no excuse." So she does day 1, obviously, because she can't do the whole thing because we have kids and everything that depend on us. But her first time doing it, we had several officers. It was about 8 officers killed in North Carolina that year prior. And we get to like mile 80 something. It's like the last break before the end. And she's just at that point. Like, you know, what you're talking about, you know, where it just gets hard. She's like, "I just can't do it." She's got tears in her eyes. She's like, "I just can't do it, Brian." And I said, "Well, honey," I said, "you know, there were 8 officers killed in Line D, North Carolina, and their families would love for them to be here." I said, "So you're going to dig deep and do it for them." And she was like, "I hate you right now." But and she did. She dug deep and she did the ride. And afterwards she said, I get why you do this. I totally understand it. You know, and it's just, again, it's not about you. You know, the pain and suffering, yeah, you deal with that, but it's nothing compared to what's left for those families and those agencies, you know, that they don't have that person anymore. They don't get to say hey, they don't get to talk to them. And again, that's the whole reason why we ride.
You know, obviously, riding your bike from here to Washington, D.C. is not easy, and it sounds very lengthy. What kind of training goes into preparing for a ride like that?
Well, like I said, the first year I did it, and I didn't know what I was doing. So, you know, I would just ride from my house here in Union County, you know, so many miles. Like I said, the longest ride I'd ever did was like 42 miles. But again, during the ride, they're broke up segments. So you may ride 25 miles, 20 miles, maybe 30 miles. You're getting a break. You're getting to rehydrate, getting food in you, you know, to continue going. Now, because I ride so much, I mean, I'm doing, you know, anywhere between 150 to 250 miles a week on my bike.
Mm-hmm. So how many miles are you putting in leading up to it?
Well, let's see. I'm currently at 2,700 miles for the year 2026 before.
Oh, wow.
But that's just me. I mean, but people don't have to do it. Like I said, when I first did it, I didn't have a lot of miles in my legs before that.
So what are the biggest physical and mental challenges that you face doing that ride?
Physically, you know, your body, if you don't feed it, right? Because your body's burning everything it's got. So if you don't feed it while you're riding, that can become a problem. Staying hydrated, you know, because obviously, you know, sweating so much. But so physically, that's the hardest thing and trying to make yourself eat while you're riding. That's tough to do. Mentally, cycling, in my opinion, is all mental because you're sitting there like you're tired, you're hurting, you know, your rear end hurts. You know, there's nothing fun sitting on those saddles, even with the padded shorts. But again, it's just the physical or the mental aspect of it is just having to push yourself and make yourself work hard to get through that.
So talking about the ride itself, what is it like during the ride?
it's awesome. And what I say is awesome about it is, so obviously I work for Union County Sheriff's Office, but I'm riding with several like CMPD officers, or we've had some guys from like Mount Holly PD, Concord PD, Mooresville PD. We've had officers from Los Angeles County Sheriff's Office, out in California come. So it's neat getting to ride with other officers, and other cops know what I'm talking about when you share war stories, like, hey, we had this go on, and funny things like, oh, yeah, we fought a naked guy, like that, funny stuff like that, and everybody's telling stories. But we do have people that aren't law enforcement that ride with us. So getting to hang out with them and several, like we've got a retired pro cyclist that rides with us every year. And so getting to talk to him about cycling and the things that he's done, the sport itself, it's just it's a lot of fun. It's a big family. You start out, you may not know somebody that's on the ride, but by the end of it, you know all about them, and you're riding with them outside of the ride after that.
Mm-hmm. What goes through your mind through all those long miles?
Well, like I said, the biggest thing, I make sure I think about Jeff every time. I mean, because every time I ride, that's what I think about. But then especially like this year, thankfully, we don't have any names on our jerseys. We didn't lose any last year in 2025. But I still think, like I said, it was only 2 years ago that we lost Josh and the three marshals. And it's been, I think, 2021 we lost Mia Goodwin in Charlotte. She was in a car accident, or she was just sitting in her car and she got hit and was killed. So I still think about those names. And next year will be the 20-year anniversary of Clark and Shelton, and I was a detention officer when that happened. I remember that very vividly when they were killed and ambushed and killed. Excuse me. But no, that's what I think about. I think about the officers that aren't here. I think about their families.
So I know you spoke briefly about it, but how do you support other riders along the way when you're doing all those miles? I mean, I know you said you put your hand on your back and encourage them, but what else do you do?
Well, a lot of it is coaching. Like you'll see somebody that they may be in the wrong gear, on a climb, or they're we call it burning matches. They're just putting too much in when they shouldn't. So you do a lot of coaching. And especially for folks that don't ride. And that's what happened to me. Like, my first time doing it, I was listening to people because I know what I was doing. I mean, it's not like I was a professional cyclist or anything like that. I'm still not a professional, but I'm a lot stronger now than I was when I started. But now I'm able to share the experiences I've had, because since doing Body DC, obviously, it's become, a lifestyle and a hobby for me. And now I'm doing races and things like that. But I take the stuff I've learned from there, and when somebody new is riding, I share with that, what I've learned to try to help them get through. And a lot of them like, oh, man, thank you so much. That made it so much easier, to get through that section listening to what you were telling me.
So obviously probably the best part about the ride is when you finally reach Washington, D.C. What does it feel like when you finally arrive there?
It's, well, we've had some years where we've gone, like I said, this year we're not going to have anybody, that no names from the previous year before. But I'll share with you 2 years ago. I believe it's Ashley Iyer is her name, Josh's wife. She was there waiting on us when we pulled into Arlington. And let me go back to the story about him that year. We had lost Josh and those marshals not even a week before we left out of Charlotte. Right, they were killed. I think it was April 29th or April 28th. So we're talking about a week because we leave May 9th every year. They were there waiting on us, and we rode. So Josh Iyer was on the public order bike unit in Charlotte, and we rode his bike all the way from Charlotte to DC, and to see her and her son there, Josh's wife and his child. Man, there's just no words to describe that, and like her smiling because we honored her husband. You know what I'm saying? Like she was crying, but she was smiling, like thankful, like thank you, like grateful for what we did, and one of the guys that worked with him very closely actually rode the last leg of the last day on Josh's bike, and it just, you see that, man, it just, makes you melt, like.
So what happens once the ride is complete?
A lot of hugging, a lot of crying, a lot of high-fiving, a lot of people just saying, thank you, and that was great, hope to see you next year kind of deal, and then just some rest and relaxation comes after that.
Can you talk about visiting the memorials or ceremonies that take place?
So I went the first year that I did go to the wall and see Jeff's name on the wall, and attended the candlelight vigil. And for what that is there the Washington Mall. They'll read out each state. They'll read out the names of the officers that were killed the year prior, and then they'll hit a bell. And when they do North Carolina, we're there. We have candles. We're holding them. So that's what we do. That's, like I said, the 4 days we ride, and then the 5th day is the day of the ceremony there at the mall. What
impact does that moment have on you or the other riders?
Well, I think a lot of us, especially the ones that are in law enforcement, you think about, there's calls that you go to that could have went a different way. Your name could technically be on that wall, or there's times. There's a lot of officers that are killed in line of duty. It's not always a felony assault. It's not always shooting. Like a lot of it, is car crashes. Things like that, and not on their own. We're just like anybody else. We're in a car all the time. Somebody hits it. Like that's what happened to Jeff. But yeah, you just sit there and you think about that, and like, especially if you know somebody that you've lost, and you think about their families, and just what it's like, and for me, I guess it's when Jeff passed, I had lost my father probably a month before, not even a month before. So Jeff was filling that void until he was taken. So, when you lose somebody, and that losing life is tough for anybody, for sure, but there's just something about it being, a fellow brother or sister in law enforcement, and just knowing, that just, you get used to, looking at life as far as, okay, well, my parents will pass away one day and things like that. That's, we know that. But when it's somebody that you work with day in and day out, and, you support, and they support you, and then you come to work and they're not there anymore, it's just not easy to talk about.
So, you're right. It's not easy to talk about. So I guess what I want to ask now is, if the community wants to get involved with Bike to DC, how would they do that?
Well, if they want to ride, come on and ride. But no, if they don't, if they want to, like I said, we raise money. Each rider has to raise money in order to go. And that money, the majority of it goes to the scholarship fund, Charlotte Legacy Foundation. But others of it covers our hotels, because obviously we're staying in hotels each night. And I think for an officer, it's like $750. So if there is somebody that they know that is participating, they can go. They'll usually have like a fundraising page that they'll put on their social media or something, and they can donate if they want to do that. And it is a 501c, so they can definitely do that. Or just, if you don't have any way of donating, prayer, that's always awesome. We can always use prayer.
Well, one of the things that we do here at the end of 1041 is we like to do a lightning round of questions. So I'm going to ask you, early morning rides or evening rides?
Early morning.
Hills or flat roads?
Oh, flat roads, of course.
Toughest part of the ride?
Probably putting the bibs on.
One word to describe Bike to DC?
Amazing.
I'll take that. Lieutenant Funderburke, thank you for sharing your story and for taking on such an incredible challenge to honor those who have made the ultimate sacrifice. And thank you to everyone for listening to 1041, a UCSO podcast. If you'd like to support Bike to DC or learn more about how you can get involved, be sure to follow the Union County Sheriff's Office for updates. Until next time, stay safe, and we'll see you on the next call.